All right, guys, welcome into the channel. If you're new here, all we do is talk about how to get to 200 grand a month inside of your brick and mortar healthcare facility. Now, we also do help a little bit with telehealth as of recent too. So we're all about getting healthcare businesses, mostly cash and private pay to be clear, up to that 200 grand per month mark. So a lot of the videos on the channel, if you're new, you'll find a lot of trainings. If you're a returning subscriber, you've already seen that we teach very in-depth trainings. This is not going to be one of them. This is going to be one of those mindset videos. Now, before you go and say, I've had enough mindset, I've heard it all, I want you to be conscious of this, because I think that there's so many strategies, so many tactics, but the real understanding of growth truly comes when you understand how the brain works at a super deep level. So Joe Dispenza, also a fellow chiropractor, he wrote a great book called Evolve Your Brain. He wrote a series of books. But in the book Evolve Your Brain, he talks about how the brain becomes emotionally comfortable to a certain way of operating, okay? So what that means is when the brain, you think about something, and then you feel the effects of that thought, okay? So for example, some people identify with having crippling anxiety. It's part of their identity. And why is it part of their identity? Is because when they think about having anxiety, and then they feel like they have anxiety, and then they think about how they're feeling, which just becomes this really self-perpetuating doom loop, okay? So what you have to understand from the context of business, if you're not where you're at in business, it's likely because you are living in emotional comfort, okay? So the brain as a whole, the brain seeks comfort. Okay, if you study, evolutionary psychology, the human brain doesn't want to do any more than just stay alive, conserve energy, because we may have to go out later and hunt for our food, and we're going to need energy to do that. So historically, our ancestors, they lived basically like an energy conservative mindset, okay? Because again, they had to save energy to go and hunt. Now, in the modern world, we have unlimited resources. We have unlimited energy, unlimited food, unlimited water, especially if you live in the States, right? I know there's people that are less fortunate than others. I get that. But for the most part, we don't have to operate in the same way that our ancestors did in terms of that energy energy conservation. That's the word, energy conservation, right? So we don't have to operate the same way that our ancestors did in that regard, okay? So what we have to understand, though, is that although we don't have to operate like that, the brain still thinks like that subconsciously, okay? So here's what happens. The brain constantly seeks comfort, okay? So not naturally all the time we are trying to live in a comfortable state, because that's what the brain wants, like we were just talking about, right? Now, growth is the opposite of that mental framework. So what's interesting about businesses, and why I think so many people struggle to get their business to the next level, is because even when you're at 20 grand a month, 30 grand a month, 50 grand a month, 100 grand, even millions a month, I've talked to people, they get emotionally attached to their current way of thinking, their daily lifestyle, their daily operating patterns, their habits, right? And these might even be positive habits, to be clear, but they are the habits that have them at that current level, okay? So you have to become aware of everything that you've done up today has got you the results that you have currently inside of your company, okay? And what happens is when you start getting results in your company, okay, when you start getting results in terms of your business, in terms of revenue, and let's say you are at 100 grand a month if you're watching this, and you're like, why can I not grow? It's because you've probably become emotionally comfortable with how you operate at 100 grand a month. You're comfortable with your daily routine, how you follow up with your patients and your new appointments, right? How you structure your team, how you pay your team, how you pay yourself. You're emotionally comfortable with all that. So even going from 100 grand a month to 200 requires you to operate differently. You have to do different shit. You have to do different activities. There have to be new actions that have to take place to go to the next level, right? So if you understand that, then you can understand how to break through. So the biggest gap I see in people that I talk to is they just refuse to change. They refuse to step out of that emotional comfort that the brain has created, okay? And now again, if you're watching this and you're at 100 grand a month, even 200 grand a month, maybe less, and you're like, I am comfortable, dude. I don't want to grow anymore. I don't want to take my business to the next level. Then you can disregard all this because it's like you're comfortable right there and you can just operate at equilibrium, okay? But let me tell you one thing. Here's what happens with businesses that operate at equilibrium for too long. They end up dying anyway. And why is that? Because every year your expenses are going to go up. So if you try to operate, let's say you're at 100 grand a month, you're like, I only want to serve this amount of patients, this amount of patients. Well, guess what? You might be profitable this year, but if you don't continue to grow, your expenses are going to go up every single year, and then eventually your business will just be squeezed out. So they always say if you're not growing, you're dying, and that's literally the reason why, is because inflation is always going to be present, and if you're not actually compensating for additional revenue every year, pretty soon what once was a healthy margin is going to be squeezed tight thin, right? So what I would encourage you to do, first of all, practice what's uncomfortable. Secondly, practice also going third person view on yourself. What is my daily operating procedure? What are my daily habits that I'm doing? Which ones are contributing to current growth? Which ones are decaying the growth? And then which ones am I doing successfully that I just need to take to a higher level, okay? So again, you don't have to become like physically uncomfortable in this stuff. This is all emotional, okay? All of our growth as humans is in here, okay? Because the reality in the world are all like, everything's connected, okay? If you want to change your future, you just have to change yourself, okay? You're already connected to everything that you need, all right? So if you want to go to the next level, ask yourself, what is the individual who's already achieved that level? If you're at 100 grand a month and you want to go to 200, what is the individual who's at 200 grand a month? How do they operate? How do they think? What would they do if they were in my shoes? Like, get that third party view on yourself and then project that new identity onto yourself, and eventually you will become that, okay? So again, I wanted to share this. This is not some tactical Facebook meta advertising training, but I think that this is the idea that keeps people stuck at the same level for too long, is that emotional comfort with the current state, having a willingness to change, but not being able to overcome that discomfort, which then makes you fall back into that old paradigm of doing the way the stuff you've always done it, okay? So implement that. As I always say on this channel, the biggest the biggest compliment you can give us is actually taking action on these ideas that we share. All ideas are shit without execution, as Gary Vee once said. So make sure if you watch this and you're feeling like you do need to change your activities, you need to change your action, you need to step out and do a new identity, go and do so. Otherwise, again, you might find yourself kind of just playing the rolling fucking ball every year of just getting the same revenue every year. We hit around $1 million a year, we hit around $1 million a year, so like recognize the pattern and ask yourself, why is that occurring? And then step into that new identity of what you'll have to get to in order to go to the next level. So appreciate you guys being here. If you're a returning subscriber, we appreciate you. If you're new here, I hope it was valuable. And I look forward to seeing you guys in some next ones. Cheers.